Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Album Fight Club. Of course, I'm your host, Mike Kane, here with Cody Constantine and a special guest. We have with us today the one, the only Jason Adams. Jason, how are you?
Oh my God. It's been a while, Mike.
What happened?
I mean, you and I talk all the time,
Did we
but
lose?
it's been a while since I've been on a podcast, since you and I used to do the podcast. So it's great. Thank you guys for inviting me. I know you guys have been talking about having like guest people show up at times to help you critique. And I'm a longtime listener, first time caller to your podcast here. So
Yes,
we'll get
longtime listener of our 2 episodes so far.
I enjoyed your 2 episodes a lot.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You're probably our most avid fan as far as episodes we've done so far.
That's good.
Yeah.
Jason was with a podcast we did The Long Monday several years ago at this point. So those familiar with that podcast might be familiar with Jason, of course. But Cody and I have been friends with Jason for a very long time at this point. And of course, Cody and I always engage in musical discussion. Jason also engages in musical discussion with us, especially when it comes to the band we're talking about today, which of course is Rage Against the Machine.
Woo.
Their first album, their self-titled, versus their second, Evil Empire. Now, full disclosure, we love their third album, but this is Album Fight Club where we pick 2 albums, and we sort of made the executive decision just to go with the first 2, more closely correlated, I think. And to also allude to something you said, Jason, Cody and I did discuss that it was about every 3rd episode we wanted to bring a guest on. First person we thought of was Jason. First thing we thought of with Jason was Rage Against the Machine. So here we are.
Well, I think part of it you had to invite me on here because I'm in the throes of possibly having another kid. Definitely having another kid. So in about 2 weeks, you won't be able to access me to help you out on any show.
Yes.
From that point on. Plus, I'm also using this idea to steal and maybe create my own possible ripoff of your podcast. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Hey, whatever works, man. This is your last week of freedom. So
that is definitely some insane, super niche competition.
Do you think so? It would be. I would call
it because we'd have to be like Jason's got more fucking views than us, man.
I would call
He's got 5 more listens to us.
Yeah, well, I'd call it a record competition society. I don't know. Change the name slightly.
You son of a bitch.
We would do all music except rock. Like we would pit albums together, just random. You know, it's like today we're doing the classic track of Coming to America. It would just be random tracks together that just had similar titles. That's all we would do. Both of these songs have the word America in it. We're playing them against each other. Jesus. Which one's more patriotic?
I'm not worried personally. You're about to have your second kid. Your life's going to be over again.
It's true.
So it's going to be doubly over at this point. So you'll have no time for anything.
It's true.
You have no time to make a copy podcast.
It'll be 100% true. Yeah.
This is now his life's obsession, is taking our idea.
My swan song. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Jason, you and I have actually seen this band live.
Yes.
Which I think we're both lucky enough to say that because this could totally be their last tour that we just saw.
We did, yeah.
Given that they're pushing like 40 something, right?
I would say 50s,
or is it even 50 something?
I would say 50s probably.
Yeah,
because I feel like they were in their 20s when they were like in the mid 90s. They were in their 20s, so I would say they're in their 50s easily. But you know, I mean, the man tore his Achilles and was still doing a show with so much energy. I mean, he gave a better performance. I think you commented and somebody said this. He gave a better performance sitting down than some people do standing up. So
yeah, definitely.
You know, yeah, it's incredible band to see live. They were so good live. It's just one of those bands that like they sound like, you know, most bands, and I think Cody knows this from being on tour, but also seeing a lot of bands, and Mike from seeing a lot of bands. A lot of times you have that band's great in the studio, but you hear them live and you go, oh, it's just not quite as clean and crisp. Whereas they sounded as good, if not better, live as they do on these records. So it was really kind of like anytime you had that testament to a band that they can sound as good live as they do recorded, it's always a good sign that you're in for, you know, that you're really seeing a quality performance over something, you know, somebody else.
For sure. Well, you know, the incredible thing about Rage Against the Machine is that all 4 parts operate individually, but when they come together, all of those sections tend to be so focused on making the tightest, most cohesive sound that
I agree. Yeah.
it would be hard to not have it translate live. And I think too that the simplicity and the structure of a lot of these sections, they only add to an intensity internally that you would want to kind of go buck wild in a live setting, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were way back, like way far back from the stage, and yet still Jason and I were moving, we were shaking, we were doing everything we possibly could. At one point I wanted to rip out the chair I was sitting in, but it was bolted to the floor and I couldn't pull it off, but it was definitely a experience for sure.
Mike is
I think
Mike's very much a table slammer. You know what I'm talking about? Like the guys that bang their fists on the tables and counters. Like Mike, I saw so many like hand slams on the little like drink stand in front of us that it was just like bam, bam, bam. I was like, oh man. And then, but the funny thing is the guy right next to Mike, same intensity. Of course, we were all this way. I mean, you're like, it's a show where you're seeing 30,000 people just lose their shit. So it was really crazy, that everybody, and the thing is, it's also a band that, because they hadn't toured in forever, you've got basically 4 albums. One's a cover. There are 3 originals. And it's like, everybody knows all the words. Everybody was there you could tell were people that had been waiting for the 2.5 years it took to get that show on. So it was literally like, yeah, the intensity is just incredible. And they maintained it literally for an hour and 45 minutes, just a steady, just constant barrage of power. And just, it was really great to see.
Well, I think if you really break it down and you look at their position in pop culture, Rage Against the Machine will always be incendiary.
Yeah.
They never had that Milli Vanilli moment of like, oh, they're limp syncing. Like, Zach left for reasons that involve just simply integrity.
Mm-hmm.
They never had that moment to burn out. And in my opinion, I think when you get to Battle of Los Angeles, all of those songs are damn good songs.
Yeah, they are.
They walked out with a high watermark. And I think it's funny with them leaving at what I would say almost their most commercial peak could have been. Like, making that decision to go, you know what? We're selling the most records we could right now. Let's not do this anymore.
Well, it's sort of, yeah. It's sort of like the antithesis of people like, the Police when sort of left when they were at the top, right? And those bands that say, this is it. We can't really, if we go any further, we're sort of like you said, like that commercialism that, because Battle of Los Angeles had 3 or 4 really huge hits off that one album. And, it's like, if we stay any longer, we're sort of like, the antithesis of what we're saying we are. These renegades, these sort of like guys who fight the establishment, and now we're going to become so big that we are the establishment. So I think maybe there was some pushback on that ideology as well too. Just like, nope, we're here.
Yeah,
we want to explore something different. We're sort of there, and also, once you make 3 really good albums, it's like, maybe it's like, I don't really want to make anything else right now. I want to take a breath.
Yeah, and I think too, I think that they did the absolute best choice that they could have done in terms, I guess, of like being able to acknowledge that there was going to be some hindsight looking at the band. Because eventually there was going to come a generation that thought, oh, it's kind of silly that they were such a big band and they were signed to such a big label and they did all these giant things. They played on Wall Street. Like, that could be tacky to some people. It's not to me, but I think that they made the best backdoor exit by going, here's some covers. We're leaving you with things that we grew up loving. That cover of Maggie's Farm, incredible.
Oh, dude.
What is it? Pump Handle Slam? Or whatever that song is?
Pistol Grip Pump, baby.
Yeah.
Great cover.
Incredible.
I'm the Ghost of Tom Joad, man. That's Mike and I have talked about this. I've used it in shows before. I love that song. I think that cover is amazing.
It's beautiful. But we're not here talking about Renegades or whatever. We're here talking about Self-Titled versus Evil Empire,
which is a doozy. Now, Jason and I have been working together for the past few weeks, so we've been talking about this, to each other. But one thing I want to make clear before getting to the track by track is that with the first episode we did, Masterverse Ride, I was very much in the camp of Master of Puppets. In the second episode, from the start, Cody and I were very much paranoid. This is the first episode where I'm just unsure. I love both these records. I think I know which one I like more, but then the second I say that, I'm like, nah, I think I like the other one more.
Yeah.
It's literally a back and forth that I've never been able to solve. So maybe after track by track, I can literally just let numbers solve it for me. So opening tracks, Bomb Track versus People of the Sun. I don't know if any of you guys want to go first, but I sort of have a little funny story, or not so much a funny story, but an anecdote, which is the concert that Jason and I went to. They literally opened the concert with Bomb Track. It was the first song they opened with. And I don't know, man, right? We're all pumped. The lights go down, the screaming starts, the hollering starts. And there's this little like intro thing they did that was like sirens and Zach sort of like repeating these words. And then and like the second that came in, you're just like, fuck, dude, let's fucking go. Let's rip this place apart. And then when the riff comes in, they have this huge screen behind them. And when the riff comes in, it just in huge letters says, "Fear is your only god." And I'm just like, all right, I'm going to tear some shit up tonight. That's what's going to happen. And I don't know. It was it's one of those things where like I didn't really think of any better song to open with, which might speak to my opinion of this matchup. Again, I love People of the Sun. I think lyrically it's talking about a really cool concept, which is sort of like colonialism in the 1600s of like colonializing American indigenous people. But fuck, man, Bomb Track just comes in like a bomb and just explodes, and you're just like, you're in it at that moment, at least for me.
I mean,
here is where, go ahead, JJ. I'm sorry.
No, Cody, you go ahead. You were responding faster.
All right. Here is where my entire issue falls with this breakup. Because so when I was in the band that I was very lucky to have success with, and we toured and signed a record deal and everything, I wrote all of the lyrics, and I also had a hand in writing most of the music. So I have this great divide between lyrical content and I'm going to kick someone's fucking head in. And People of the Sun lyrically is incredible. I think that is one of Zach's finest moments. Instrumentally, the section in the chorus when the guitar does that like wow 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 wow, I want to turn into a caveman. I want to just start throwing fists at anybody in the room. But Bomb Track for me hits in such a feral way. I wrote actually in my notes. It's one of the few notes that I wrote for this. Bomb Track makes me want to grab my Remington and put in some good work at the Ku Klux Klan headquarters. And that is what I think the perfect way to feel about that song is. They were young and, like a buzzword, incendiary. They wrote that track, and it hits that first when the whole band comes in, it feels like the pressure of an atom exploding.
I agree.
It's almost like a shock wave coming out of the speakers when that happens.
Oh,
just get blown back for a second.
Well, I also think, well, for me, I think we're kind of probably all in the same agreement here. But so People of the Sun, to me, if it was like maybe like 2 minutes longer and it gave me a little bit more, I feel like I would put it on the list, because I think it's a great opening album. Because People of the Sun, it really is like it goes, because it sort of sets the tone, I think, for the difference between the self-titled album and between Evil Empire, because Evil Empire is just like 100 miles an hour the whole album. It just goes. Whereas like, you know, the self-titled, it's like it has ebbs and flows a little bit more. Like, you know, you can feel it going up and down and up and down. But there's that line in Bomb Track where it's like, what's it say? Enough. I call your bluff. Fuck your manifest destiny. Right. You know, he says that line, and then it goes, and it, like, you know, that whole song just feels like it's like a warning to, that whole album basically is like a protest album. So it's like this warning to these the elites that we're coming for you and we're gonna fucking murder you and we're coming after you, man. And like, I think that's Cody's right. It's like you want to get a guitar right from the Ku Klux Klan, because Bomb Track really just comes out swinging. Like, it's like, this is what this album's about. If you're not on board, turn the shit off right now, because it's not going to be, we're not going to be shaking hands and doing hugs by the end of it. It's going to be angry, flipping chairs and burning the place down. So Bomb Track is like a quintessential, I don't know. It starts off, it just is a good starting track because it's just political and it's everything they stand for is sort of part of that song. Whereas People of the Sun is a lyrically cool song, but it's not as strong as the song that follows it. Does that make sense? Whereas I feel like when you pair Bomb Track with the second title track together, that makes it a much more cohesive kind of feeling. So, I mean, for me, I think I just think Bomb Track, plus I can listen to the two over and over again. I think I prefer Bomb Track over. It's also like, it's one of the classic kind of Rage songs. And yes, Mike, maybe we're a little tempted, because you're right. When they started off at that show and they hit with Bomb Track, but they're doing those lines. I think the lines might have been from, they might have been from Know Your Enemy. I think he starts off with that. All of these are American dreams. All of these are American dreams. I think that's what he's saying when we first started that show, when he's walking out there in the blackout. He's like, oh, these are American dreams. I think he's saying it before Bomb Track kicks, and you're just like, oh shit. Okay. So you were pumped up about it. So that might give me a little bit more love for it too. But yeah, I have to vote Bomb Track on this one too. I agree.
And what's funny is that the second song of the concert was actually People of the Sun.
Yeah.
They went from Bomb Track to that, and I was like, oh, they're doing both the openers. That's interesting, right back and forth.
This is something I was going to say too. I told Mike this, and I might have told this to Cody. So I don't know how you guys did it, but I know when you guys are, for me, I would create a playlist where I'd do track 1, track 2, track 2, track 3, and I'd listen to it that way. And I thought to myself, after those two albums, like simultaneously back to back, I was like, holy shit. This is an incredible album. If you're ever going to do a greatest hits, like, they almost feel like you could do 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. Like, they almost play so that intensity with just, I mean, the first 35 minutes of those 3 or 4 tracks are just ridiculous. Played in that order.
Yeah. So a runaway for Bomb Track, it seems.
Yeah. I love People of the Sun though.
Well,
great song.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like we have to say this
song.
every episode, but it's like, we don't hate any of, I mean, none of these songs, well,
there's one.
Maybe I won't say
there's
that.
One.
Many of these songs we don't hate. So some of these songs are like great. Both of the songs are great, but you have to pick one. Yeah. You know, that's the little fun game we're doing.
You know, and I think too, that is the beauty of being able to look back and celebrate records that almost immediately follow each other in, like, say, like a band's golden era, is the ability to look and see the growth that they've done as artists. And I think for Rage, going into Evil Empire, I would say that is them at their most musically captivating.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean it's at their most successful. You know, there are some things on Evil Empire that I feel like just kind of fall short, in the sense of you're trying too much.
Yeah.
Because I think they were afraid of being relegated to these, like, first 10 frets drop D band, where Tom Morello and Tim do this cool thing and it locks in, and then Tom does something wonky with guitar and Zach raps. I think they tried to do so much expansion that it feels less cohesive.
I'm going to play against that though, Cody. I know we got to go into the second track here, but I do think one thing is, for some reason, Evil Empire to me though feels like a more cohesive album though, by doing that. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, they tried to increase their musicality, was like I feel like it's much more defined drumming and bass and guitar in that second album. Like, this is this sort of like, Tom's figuring out how to go from doing, like, because there's a couple tracks we'll get to on here where it's like he was doing things where it's like and you're like, he's testing where he's going, whereas in Evil Empire he is like achieving those moments and really perfects it by the time they hit their third album. Whereas the first album is really like that raw, this is us figuring us out, this is us being as raw as we can, whereas Evil Empire is a much cleaner album. So in some ways it helps, but you're right, at times, because it's so clean and some of those later tracks, you're just like, it just feels like a rehash of the first half of the album, which is, we'll talk about more. We'll go further. We'll get on. I'm getting ahead of myself.
So this is what I love about Track by Track. the next matchup is literally their two biggest singles, their two biggest hits, which is Killing in the Name of versus Bulls on Parade. And actually, if I could, Jason, you and I have talked about this extensively. I want Cody to start this one.
Sure.
Because I don't know how Cody feels about this. He might piss me off.
No, this is going to be long. That's not going to be super long.
He might agree with us, actually.
Bulls on Parade is a beautiful song, and it is as passionate as a young soldier's first love. It is, dude, I'm telling you. No, it is. It is as passionate as like the fucking winter wind. It is searing. Killing in the Name of, though, in my opinion, is not only better than Bulls on Parade. I think it is one of the greatest American protest songs ever written. Fuck you, Mike. I think it is one of the greatest protest songs ever written. And okay, hold on. Here's the thing. It has been over the years pulled down to this like almost jokey, smarmy, like I don't want to take out the trash.
Huh.
If you look back at Woody Guthrie and Seeger and all of these people, all of these protest people, at Bob Marley, these people who were ostracized because of their desire to step out in a political realm and say, hey man, let's hold off for a second. You look at Dylan, even getting slower over the years and writing more, veering more into like pop culture, pop songs. For a young, non-white man to captivate the radio with the sentence, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, that is enough to light 1,000 suns. Bulls on Parade hits, but Killing in the Name of will eternally burn in the fire of, I understand this. When everything started happening with like the Black Lives Matter protests, I understood it. If DeSantis gets the Republican nomination, we'll understand it. When aliens come and it's now the planet versus the universe, we'll understand it. And I think that is what holds Killing in the Name of so high above, because it's not even... It doesn't attempt to be this big thing. It's like 20 words.
It's 4 lines.
Those 20 words are like the I can only describe it almost as the first time that you stand up for yourself, that shaking that you get, that I'm going to have to hurt somebody today. I don't want to, but in this moment, if I don't move forward, I will get moved back. And tears and fear will not stop me from moving forward.
That was beautiful, Cody.
Thank you.
But you're wrong.
Fuck you.
Okay, no, you have totally valid points. I do think Killing in the Name of is one of the greatest protest songs ever. I totally agree when you say that it only accomplishes so much with basically like 20 words. It very much is repetitious, and yet the repetition is so infectious, right? They can repeat those words, and I never get old of it. I think Killing in the Name of is an incredible song. But bro, Bulls on Parade, man. Come on. What? Bulls on Parade, not only for me is the best Rage song, it's one of my 5 favorite songs ever. And the reason why is because you mentioned just sort of like the force of nature that Rage is, and how when they play music, it hits you in the face and knocks teeth out.
Yep.
When Bulls on Parade comes in, and Jason can attest to this at the concert.
Oh, yeah.
Bulls on Parade was the 3rd song they played. The second they hit that snare note to open up, I have never gone from a sitting position to a standing position faster. I was up and moving in literally milliseconds. And it's just the fucking force behind it. It's like moving tectonic plates is what it feels like. And maybe it's not as politically driven as Killing in the Name, and maybe it doesn't do as much politically or like for the culture or for whatever, but for me, sonically speaking, there's no shifting off this rock. I have to, and it's okay if we disagree, but I just have to stand my ground here. I can't not pick Bulls on Parade against, there's only one other song on the self-titled that if against Bulls on Parade, I would really question, but every other song Rage ever made, Bulls on Parade is at the top for me.
And so my issue with Bulls is, and Jason, I'll give you an opportunity to speak in a second. After it gets to that like minute and a half mark, it dwindles.
Oh,
Killing builds.
what?
No, I think so.
Dude.
I think so. For me, at least, it starts to vamp kind of not down, but it plateaus and it never reaches that next level. Those like 4 main parts of Killing in the Name of are all iconic. And whenever I hear them, I know that they're building to something bigger. So when it gets to that part where the whole band's just going for it and Zach is whispering that sentence, when that finally explodes, that it's like they hit Mach 5 for me. They are just afterburning everything else in the world. And Bulls hits harder in the beginning, but like I said, for me, it kind of levels out. Whereas Killing in the Name of chokes the whole time, crushes the whole time.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, this is a tough track mix up because the thing is, I listen to both these tracks, and this is what we've done here. And those who are listening know that what you've done, you basically listen to these tracks like 1,000 times before you ever do these podcasts. So you're hearing them repetitiously all the time. So, well, the first thing that happens is you just think, fuck, Rage is such a good fucking band. And then the second thing that happens, you go, I will say this. I think what's happening here is you have arguably one of the greatest protest songs versus arguably one of the greatest rock songs. So they're simultaneously going head to head against each other. I'll disagree with you a little bit on it loses steam, Cody, but I do think what Killing does versus Bulls is Bulls starts at such a high level and maintains at a high level, right? It's like that. It's like when you go to the DJ and it's like, it's like continuously, you feel like it just keeps going and going and going. Whereas Rage like builds, starts strong and then it slowly builds into that very ending where it's like, fuck you and I'll do what you tell me, right? I think Killing has the stronger lyrics. Like there's that line that's those who died are justified for wearing the badge because they're chosen whites, for a man of color to sort of come out and sing that in a rock song. And it's just so much in your face. Like, fuck you. This is it. You're getting away with this. Like, some who run forces are the same that burn crosses. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's so much symmetry and allegory and all this thing. They're delivering all these storytelling in just so few words, which I think is what's so brilliant about it. And I will agree with you on Cody. It never gets tired. I could listen to Killing in the Name of 1,000 times and it would never get tiring. It is literally a really great track. But part of me agrees with Mike because Bulls is sort of like what Rage could never achieve in that first album was a song that was so intense the whole time, all the way through. And they did. And Bulls on Parade has great lines too. Rally around the family with a pocket full of shells. I mean, really like basically rounding up people and murdering them and killing them, right? Lynching and killing these people, right? And he's basically, the way I equate it is Killing is a protest. Killing is part of a protest album. And Bulls is we are at war, right? So that first album is, this is what we're going to talk about. We got to stand up. We got to fight because they're going to come after us. Bulls is essentially like, we're in the fight. We got to grab chairs and start swinging and start fighting back. Right. So it's a tough one for me because every time I listen to it, it's like, I favor one way or the other, but I think it's only because of, and the reason I'm voting this way is because of the way I feel about this track. And it's emotionally the way it connects to me is I still think I go with Bulls on Parade as for me, it's a better track because it's encapsulated everything that Killing was doing, but doing it at full rage, 100 miles an hour, nonstop. And I think here's the thing I will say. Mike, we talked about this. He said when we went to saw the show, they played this third. So they always play that one big track like early on to get the crowd pumped. And then they close with their really big track. You can take Bulls and you can take Killing and switch them. They could have played Killing third. It'd have been fucking killer. It's still been great. And then they could have played Bulls on Parade as the final encore. You can switch those two out in that ending either way, and they play. And that's a marquee of your two best tracks you have because they both personify who you are as a band. They both equally show who you are. But I think Bulls, for me, I never get tired of Bulls on Parade. That beginning, that wah, wah, wah. I mean, it hits and you just like, hell yeah. Like Mike's right. You just go full into it. If it plays in your car, you lose your shit. If it was playing if I was at like Books A Million and that shit somehow came on, I would probably grab books off the shelf and kick them into the wrong fucking department. I'd be like, oh shit, somebody's playing Bulls, dude. Versus if Killing the Name came on, I'd be like, oh shit, they're playing Killing the Name? What the fuck? Who put this on? You know, that's the sort of the reaction. It's a gut reaction I have to that song, Bulls on Parade. So for me, it's Bulls. I get the vote on that one. But it's a real close.
And
it's real close.
I could be at the DMV, and if Bulls came on, I'd start like kicking plexiglass. Yeah. Like, it's going to happen.
You'd lose your license just to swerve on that song.
Yes.
Bulls is is very much caveman mode. If I was Zach Kane and I was lifting heavy weights, I would put on Bulls.
But I will say this:
I'd throw the weights.
I will say this: I had a funny experience with Killing the Name of. Just a little side anecdote. I was in the drive-thru at Taco Bell one time, and so Killing was playing on the radio on Sirius, and I had it on, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it's about to kick this part. Like, fuck you, I won't do it. You tell me, right? And I had the window kind of down, because you're driving up to the drive-thru, and I pull up, and that song, I've got that thing way higher than it should be, and it's just like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. And the guy at Taco Bell leans at the window and looks at me, and I was like, I just had this moment of looking at him, and I was just like, oh, I gotta turn this down. And he was like, he nodded at me, and was like, all right. And I remember like, this guy knows this fucking song. He knows this shit. So anyway.
So I think we have to move on with the split.
Yeah.
Not that, again, we could talk about these two tracks for the next 2 hours if we wanted to, but at a certain point, you just have to accept where it lies, which is Cody's for Killing, Jason and I are for Bulls. We'll see how that adds up in the end. Track number 3 matchup, Take the Power Back versus Vietnam. Now, Jason, you can begin this because I began the first one. Cody began the second one. Why don't you begin the third one?
So, you know what's funny is this was one, we've talked about this because I've really never been a huge fan of Take the Power Back. I don't know why. I've never been. I like it. I think it's a great track, but it's never been like one that I would go, I had to listen to it all the time until I started listening to it. Whereas Vietnam, I always remember was the track that followed Bulls on Parade on that album, because I think I listened to Evil Empire more when I was younger than when I listened to Self-Titled. And it's a weird matchup for me because now after listening to them both times, I was originally going to say with Vietnam. Like I just liked Vietnam better. I like the sound of it. I like how it played. I like sort of the storytelling element of it a little bit more. It's a more cohesive song. Plus I love that whole turn on the radio. Nah, fuck it. Turn it off. Fear's your only God on the radio. I mean, I love that track. I think that lyric is just great. And he is going like 100 miles an hour with that rap. Because that right after that beginning, right where they said that savors my guillotine, crosses and kerosene, right? And then he goes right into that boom, 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 boom. He's just hitting so fast on that song. And I think I still prefer Vietnam a little bit more. But after listening to Take the Power Back, it slowly has grown on me that I actually really enjoy that song because it's like a protest song, but it feels like they're actually having fun when they're singing it. I know that sounds weird, but it's almost like, it's not like a lighthearted thing, but it's kind of like, hey man, listen, come here. Let's talk about this. And it's like they're having this weird like chat with you. Like, hey man, this is what we're talking about. It's like they're trying to get me to join their movement. Like what they're doing. And it's like, and plus there's also that great ending part where it's like, and Mike and I talk about it, where it's like, I'll take the power back. And it's no more lies. I really like the ending of that fucking song. I just love the ending of Take the Power Back. So, but I think from looking at all the lyrics and really hearing them both out, I think I'm going to give the vote to Take the Power Back. I think I am. I think the more I listened to it, the more I really started to enjoy it, even though it's a very like, Vietnam feels very concise. Like the music's really good. The lyrics are really strong. It's a very concise song, but the sort of the chaos that Take the Power Back has it feels like young dudes trying to figure a song out and really getting a huge message across, because the rap on both of them and lyrics on both of them are really, really good. I just appreciate the fun and the almost, I don't say sentimental nature of it, but it just feels like they're just being honest with me and Take the Power Back. Whereas Vietnam feels like we knew what we were going to write. We made it. Whereas Take the Power Back feels more like a rift. And I kind of enjoyed it a little bit more the more I hear it.
Cody?
Yeah, I think Vietnam is the much better song. So here's a little
shock.
Here's a little fact. Hold on. Here's a little fact about me. My favorite hip hop, rap, whatever you'd like to call it, group of all time is Eric B. and Rakim. And the thing that I love about Eric B. and Rakim is that never once do they denigrate women. Paid in Full is all about I'm the best rapper alive. Here's me being the best rapper alive. Ain't no one taking this away from me. Eric B. is president. I got the best DJ. I love that. And the amount of words that Zach fits into Vietnam is insane. Like, my one issue, I think, with the self-titled is that he never really stretches his wings. And you listen to Vietnam, and I think that's the first time when you kind of go, oh, this guy also, he's not like Fred Durst. He can actually, like, rap. He could hold his own in a rap battle. Let me see. I'm looking at the lyrics right now. Like Jason said, that section, the rhyming scheme on the radio, nah, fuck it, turn it off.
Yeah.
Fear's your only god on the radio. That's cool, because I think that's in, like, that feels like it's in 7. And the rest of the song is not in 7. So him fitting that, like, rhythm scheme into it is amazing. I think Tom Morello's guitar playing on this song is incredible. And something that I was going to mention earlier, but is important to recognize, Tim and Brad are the most underrated section of the 90s for rhythm. They absolutely locked in every single time. And I feel like this is one of those songs where you hear it and it's like, if the band wasn't this tight, it wouldn't be this good.
Yeah, I think the rhythm section is as good as Bonham and Jones at times. Like, it is airtight all the time. But Cody, speaking of the Tim and the bass, what about the bass on Take the Power Back?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't even want to hear it.
No, listen. No, hold on now. I will say this. Listen. Now I will say, hold on. Vietnam. I will say this. When you get into the second album, you get into Evil Empire. I talked about this earlier. I said, I think you really are hearing the drums and the bass. You're hearing it a lot more. It's clearer. That first album, it's sort of like you're overshadowed by some of Tom's guitar work, and it's not as clean guitar work in that first album as it is in the second album. He's sort of perfected his sound that he's going forward in that second album. And so I think there definitely is a better sound to it. And to be honest with you, I think the only reason I really voted for Take the Power Back is I literally just listened to those two probably about 30 minutes before we started this, because it was the only two that I really had a close, I don't know how I feel about those two. And it can go either way with these tracks for me. Like, I think tomorrow I may prefer Vietnam. Today I may prefer Take the Power Back. It's really a close one for me, but unlike Mike, I refuse to allow to say I can't make a decision. I'm just going to pick a decision here. So when I agree with you on the amount of lyrics that comes out of Vietnam, I have to tell you, dude, look at the lyrics for Take the Power Back. There's a shitload of rap lyrics in Take the Power Back.
There
Maybe
is
not as fast because Vietnam is a quicker song, but I mean, these are the first two tracks, and it's crazy they match up on the album because they're both the third track. They're also the two times where they first get this really heavy rap in both of them. You know what I'm saying? It's the first time you hear that. And it's like, and I Take the Power Back. It's almost like a funk song. It's almost like a funk rock song. It's got that, you know, you hear it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Whereas Vietnam is like it's a rock song. It's going right out. It sort of carries the same intensity that you've had on Evil Empire. It sort of just flows through, you know. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I do agree that the musically, yes, Vietnam is very tight. It's beautifully done musically wise.
Here's my problem with self-titled versus Evil Empire, though. As a bass player, there are moments where Tim really stands on self-titled, but it feels like he falls on his face. And the slap, for some reason, doesn't do it for me in this song. It just doesn't really make sense. But when we get to, say, Bullet in the Head,
sure,
that's a completely different argument. And I think that once you get to Evil Empire, everybody's ego has shifted. It is now all right. Now it's not just Tom doing a thing. It's not just Tim doing a thing. It's not just Zach or Brad. When we allow each other to have a cool moment, it's because the song needs that cool moment.
Yeah.
Just to give my thoughts quickly, Jason, I agree in that this is a matchup where tomorrow I could feel totally different, where it's one of those things where it's a back and forth. In the moment, however, I think I do give the edge to Viet Now just for rap, precision, lyrics. It sounds as cool to me as Take the Power Back does at times. It's got really cool moments throughout. But I think the lyricism and the way Zach is giving the lyricism just gives it the slight edge for me. But again, tomorrow I could just hear Take the Power Back and the ending, like you said, Take the Power Back and be like, fuck, like that's really good. I really like it. For now, though, I'm going to have to go Viet Now. Which leads us to track 4, Settle for Nothing versus Revolver. Let me get this out real quick, and then I'll give the floor to somebody else. Settle for Nothing is by far Rage Against the Machine's worst song. It's boring. It's stupid. It's just, it shouldn't be there. Jason and I have said to each other that we skip it every time it comes on.
Yeah.
Revolver fucking smokes Settle for Nothing. This isn't even fair. Revolver by a landslide.
I agree. 100%. We've talked about this. I made a comment that said, well, Mike and I, we talked about this, which I think Mike disagrees with me a little bit. They're the same kind of song, essentially. Like Settle for Nothing's I made a joke that's like, this is the song they wrote in their garage and they never tweaked it. And they just said, we'll just throw it on the fucking album because we need 10 songs and let's just play it. And you're just like, what the fuck? This feels like an unfinished track that just doesn't know what it's doing. It's just like a petulant child yelling at his dad from the other room versus like Revolver. Revolver feels like there's a political message behind it. It's a finished product. I like the song too, and what it's saying is really, really great, man. And it's like don't mothers make good fathers, right? I mean, clearly, Tom Morello is from a single mom family, and he's probably had some there's a little bit, you know what I'm saying? It's a much better song. There's not even a competition between these two songs. Although I will say this, Settle for Nothing, looking at some of the lyrics, if you look at some of the lyrics, there's some great lines in there. Just it's not executed well at all. And you're like, what do you like? It just feels like, dude, you should take this back home, rethink about what you're doing, work on it a little bit more. It's just not, I don't know. It's just blah.
Yeah. This feels like Self-Titled has 2 or 3 songs that found their way onto like movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
Wake Up, I think Township Rebellion was in a few movies. Jason's favorite song is actually from a movie.
You're right.
And this feels like one of those songs where maybe the label could have been like, hey, write something that's a little angsty for kids who like 9 Inch Nails. We're trying to get the 9 Inch Nails market here. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. They tried. I just think that, Revolver hits. The band is tight.
Yep.
The lyrics are beautiful. I like Zach's wordplay. And once again, it's a testament to how tight Tom Morello, Tim, and Brad were. Because it's like they don't really miss a beat on this.
Easy peasy. Simple. We can move right on. We don't even have to talk about Settle for Nothing anymore. Just forget it even exists, is what I say. Bullet in the Head versus Snake Charmer.
Oh.
Here's a hard one.
Not for me.
Super hard.
Not for me as much, but go ahead.
Not for you. Well, then, no, Jason, if
it's
not hard for you, it's kind of hard.
I'm not going first this time. Cody's first time.
All right.
Cody, go first. He says
I'll go.
Okay.
I can go. It comes down to a couple of factors in terms of lyricism, which is Bullet in the Head. It's a cool song. It's got that iconic killed by, or just a victim of the in-house drive-by. They say jump, you say how high, like fucking awesome. Great.
Yep.
And then the ending is really sped up and cool. Snake Charmer for, that intro of that like drum sort of like weird shit. Like it's kind of whatever to me, even as someone who's a former drummer. But musically speaking, Snake Charmer has some killer moments in it where you just cannot help but just like bang your head as far as it can go down and then as far as it can go back up.
Yeah.
It's tough for me because even in this moment, I'm not quite sure. Which maybe if someone speaks to the other songs like Jason or Cody, I might shift. But in this current moment, I'm sure I'll come to decision after discussion. But right now, I'm not so sure as far as which one I like more.
I'm feeling like dangerously like feisty right now. Because in my opinion, this really, really starts this section of self-titled, which I would like to call Someone Wrote the Guitar Workbook. Dude, Snake Charmer, good song. Bullet in the Head, absolutely fucking crushes. As a bass player, one of the coolest bass lines ever. It's simple, it's fun. You just want to talk about headbang moments when all of them come in and they do just like that 4-note like ba da da ba da da da. Yo, I could kill Darth Vader. I could have taken the entire South by myself in the Civil War.
There's a lot of like racist KKK killing allegories you have here in this episode, Cody.
I am. Truthfully, my mind has been a little bit everywhere because of the current like political spectrum, and I've been using that to justify listening to Rage Against the Machine a lot more, just like casually. But I think that Bullet in the Head just it feels like a shot of adrenaline. Every time the band comes in, I just get more and more amped up. Where Snake Charmer is a perfectly good song, I feel like Bullet in the Head does more to be unique. And once again, I think that their inability to have grown as musicians before writing the self-titled did this beautiful thing where all of the riffs just kick your fucking teeth in. When they lock in, dude, like, sure, Settle for Nothing. Yeah. Cheap song, whatever. Maybe they had an off day. When they kick in, though, holy shit. I feel like Jason Statham and Crank, dude. Every time I hear that song, I'm like, yeah, got the battery going. You know?
If I could jump in on that real quick, I have made a decision, and you convinced me with Bullet in the Head because not the moment you mentioned, but there's the one where they do the bam, 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 dun, 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 and they like build up, and then it goes
Heater,
bam, 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 yeah. And like they just come in it like that's fucking killer, like that's real good, dude. I'll go Bullet in the Head.
Rage. Side note, Rage will use the snare drum in the most perfect way, where they will just let it be,
and the cowbell.
And the cowbell. These fucking gunshots. Like, just, if you took a 45 and you stuck it next to your ear and you just fired it, that snare, like, okay, with Bulls on Parade, that snare could have solved the Iraq War. Holy shit, dude.
I think he's converting back
Cody,
to Bulls on Parade. Look at this. There's so many
platitudes,
here.
Cody.
Just,
No, I listen, I'm amped up. Rage Against the Machine fucking rocks, dude.
All right, Jason, why was this easy?
It's easy because it's Bullet in the Head. And I'll say it. Listen, Snake Charmer's great, and we're right, musically really, really good. But there's that line, and I'm going to read it to you because it fucking kills it, Drew. It is, no escape from the mass mind rape. Play it again, Jack, and then rewind the tape. And then play it again and again and again until your mind is locked in. Believing all the lies that they're telling you, buying all the products they're selling you. They say jump, you say how high, your brain dead. You just got a bullet in your fucking head. Okay? Fucking brilliant. Like, it's so good. And there's that last line that I love, which is You're standing in line, believing the lies. You're bowing down to the flag. You got a bullet in your head, dude. It is the most anti-political statements they have in this fucking song, dude. It is like you're falling in line and you're going to get fucking killed because they're running this game on you. It is the whole perfect antithesis of us versus them. Like, the 1% is fucking over the 99%. That's 100% what this song is about. And you're going to get a bullet in the head because they're just going to fucking use you to get what they want. And it's like, it's so good. And that fucking, yeah, the music and the lyrics, it's bullet in the head. There's not even an argument for me. I love Snake Charmer. I think it's great lyrically. I mean, musically, but lyrics, you can't even compete with that. There's not even a competition between the two songs for me at least.
Yeah. So bullet in the head runs away with it. And whereas that competition or that matchup was easy for you, Jason, I think we're going to switch sides here because you have said this next matchup is tough for you. For me, it's real fucking easy.
The next two matchups are tough for me, unfortunately.
Okay. So track number 6 on both albums is Know Your Enemy from self-titled, Tire Me from Evil Empire. I mean, I can go first just to get my opinion out there quickly. Know Your Enemy is... It's not my favorite song on the self-titled, but it probably second. And the reason why it's second is it comes down to lyrics. Before I get to lyrics, though, I want to just say that musically, there's like 3 sections to Know Your Enemy. There's like the arcadey, the bam, 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 that opens it up. And then the is the second part. And then the third comes in just like guns blazing all over the place. And this is where we get to the lyric part, which is at that ending moment where Zach is saying words. He's saying single words, assimilation, and I'm blanking, of course, on all the things he says, right? But then he repeats 8 times, all of which are American dreams, and it just like I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Like, it's one of those rage moments where you're just like, that's the memorable stuff. That's the stuff that makes me come back to this band every time, no matter what year it is, no matter what climate I'm in politically. That sticks with me every time. And just to cap that off, if I could just cap it off real quick. The couplet of Land of the Free, whoever told you that is your enemy, is one of my favorite lyrics of all time. For me, it's Know Your Enemy.
What Mike is speaking, these words are compromise, conformity, assimilation, submission, ignorance, hypocrisy, brutality, the elite, all of which are American dreams.
Yes. Brilliant.
This song, this was hard for me until I started thinking about that the section where it's the do 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 do, and then here is my kind of big issue with Evil Empire overall. I think it flows really well, but the last 3 or 4 tracks for me start to kind of pivot down. Whereas self-titled, it ebbs and flows, but the whole thing feels more more cohesive. But no, I think for me, Know Your Enemy, the intro to Know Your Enemy, I do believe is kind of cheesy. Like, I don't know why. I just hear it and I feel like it's kind of dated. But then the song actually kicks in and I'm like, yeah, this rips. Like, I get through 40 seconds of annoyance. Not even the 20 seconds of annoyance. And then the bass kicks in and I'm like, yeah, I don't care about this. This song fucks.
Disagree, but that's okay. Well, so Jason, neither of us have really... Yeah, we've not really talked about Tire Me, so we're going to give you that opportunity.
Okay, so here's the thing. I do think Know Your Enemy is the better song. That's not... but it's tough for me because Tire Me, I like Tire Me a lot. And I think I was saying to Mike the other day, and we were talking about this song, Know Your Enemy is probably... That's one of Rage's probably top songs. Like, we know that song, and probably because that that beginning and that how the thing goes, and all of these are American dreams. You're right. Yeah, I mean, that song, I would say it's definitely the top 3 best songs on that first album, by far, top 3 best tracks on that album. But Tire Me to me is almost like, if you wanted, like, it's borderline like speed metal hip hop. Like, I can't describe. It just goes. First of all, it's a short track. It's under 3 minutes. It just goes it's about the fastest song on that album. Like it's just trying to time. It's angry, it's aggressive, and it's basically like this dude's just like, you're trying to outrun me, you're trying to outbeat me and outfight me, and fuck that. Nah, man, I'm gonna go to the end. I'm gonna fight you to the end. It's, I mean, the whole song is just, and then they got that one. And my favorite thing I love about Tire Me is that one part where it dips and it goes, I want to be Jackie Onassis. I want to wear a pair of dark sunglasses. I want to be Jackie. Oh, please don't die. I love that fucking part. That's like, it's one of my favorite Rage moments in all Rage songs. I just fucking love it. Because when I remember being like, probably like 16 or 17 years old, and that part of the song would hit, and I knew it would be like, and then all of a sudden, boom, it would come right back in. And that's why I think I love that track so much. It's more of like a sentimental track for me, that I just love Tire Me. And they played it at the show, right? I'm pretty sure they played Tire Me, and it fucking crushed, dude. And that was, but Know Your Enemy, as far as lyrics and as far as musically, it's a better song. I mean, I'm not arguing that. So I think I'd have to vote for Know Your Enemy for that thing. But as far as a personal favorite, Tire Me, I like it more for myself personally. But if we're going for a fight competition, I think Know Your Enemy is a superior song. Just because all rounding, it's tougher song.
And Cody was talking about those snare hits. That section you talked about in Tire Me, it ends with that gunshot snare hit, and they just go right back to 70 miles per hour. It's like, yes, dude.
That's why I like Tire Me so much, because it just, I mean, dude, it's like 2 minutes and 45 seconds, but it feels like it's 35 seconds. The whole thing. I mean, you get so pumped. That song it has the same level of pumpness for me that Bulls has, because it's a much more of a rock song than Bulls is. Bulls has that level of hip hop in there, whereas Tire Me it's just boom, it's just going. That guitar's going 100 miles, and that drums are going. It's just you're hitting so fast. I mean, if they were ever trying to channel like a Metallica moment, not Metallica, but like a classic rock band, they're fucking hitting it on Tire Me. Whereas Know Your Enemy is the quintessential type Rage song. You know, it's political, and it's a message driven song, and it's got all these levels going on. So yeah, Tire Me, it's this close for me, but it'd be Know Your Enemy. Excuse me.
Well, Self-Titled has 3 runaway track lineups so far, so we'll see how many more they can. I know there's probably at least one more, but we'll get to that. This is where Jason and I don't become friends, or we lose our friendship. Wake Up versus Down Rodeo. Yeah. Cody, why don't you start? Because Jason and I are going to butt heads on this, I know.
Oh, dude, one of you is going to be pissed off at me. All right, so I have to remove Wake Up from the ending of The Matrix to truly appreciate it. That's the hardest thing for me. And when you put the two together, I think Down Rodeo puts it in a full Nelson and suplexes it. It kills it. Down Rodeo hits the opening line of, I'm rolling down Rodeo with a shotgun. These people ain't seen a brown skin man since their grandparents bought one. You couldn't say, that could be the fucking 10 words in the song, and that'd be hard as shit.
It's my favorite Rage Against the Machine line in any song they've ever written.
The guitar, it's interesting to hear Tom Morello play chords. It is amazing to hear him play chords. And when, dude, Tim and Brad come in with just those short spurts, and Tim has that fucking bass tone where it's like kind of it's like fuzzy. It's like a data corruptor. Oh, over. Heater. Wake Up. Good song. I can never not see it as Matrix flying off the screen. Feels like a corporate shrill. This is the one time I'll say, fuck you, Rage Against the Machine. Down Rodeo massacres. Wake Up.
Do you want to give your defense to that, Jason?
Sure, I will. So, Cody, I mean, you're letting your emotions get the best of you, Cody.
You're goddamn right.
I have to let go. Don't be upset with what Warner Brothers and the Wachowski brothers at the time wrote. I mean, put that song in there.
Maybe this is my exit of the Matrix.
No, listen. Listen, is Down Rodeo great? Yes. I don't argue that at all. It's probably one of Rage's best songs. But Wake Up is the first time I think Wake Up is the precursor to Evil Empire. If you hear the sound, listen to the guitar work, listen to what they're doing, it is the sound. It's almost like it should have been on Evil Empire. The sound is much more conducive to what Evil Empire has, if that makes sense. It sounds like it should be on there. The guitar work sounds that way. The whole instrumental, the way they're going about the speed of the song, the lyrics, it works differently. And to me, it's weird because it's almost like, and I'll say this, Wake Up doesn't feel like it needs to be on that self-titled album. It feels like it doesn't belong on that album because it feels, the way I know Cody's thinking, it feels like a song that was made for a movie. You're right. And I think that's why it ended up in the fucking movie. But you got to think that song was written like 7-8 years before the Matrix ever came out, right? You know, when's the first album? 92, 94?
94.
Matrix was 99. So I mean, the track is way older, but it feels, Wake Up to me on this album feels like it's the best produced song on that album. It's the cleanest. That whole and that the way it comes in, it's got this real like movie feeling song. You're right. And I think that's why I like it so much. But like, I don't know. I like Wake Up. It's probably one of my top 3 favorite Rage songs. And I think I like it that way because of just the energy and what it's coming with. Down Rodeo is a much better lyrically written song. I mean, yes.
I was going to say,
yeah, come on.
So the first time that I listened straight through Evil Empire, because it had been probably 10 years since I'd sat down with it, the ending line of just a quiet, peaceful dance repeating, and then just a quiet, peaceful dance for the things we'll never have, and then just a quiet, peaceful dance for the things we don't have, it brought me to tears. And I cannot really fathom why. I think it's because I spent some time yelling in a band. And to yell at the top of your lungs, you have to feel dead certain that the emotional response is warranted. And when I hear that line, I don't think of Zach De La Rocha, somebody who was turning into this like amazing, kind of political poet who then would later go to do amazing political poet things. I think of a young dude who is still confused about his place in the world, hurting. Like, it doesn't feel like that ending doesn't feel like Rage Against the Machine. It feels like Zach De La Rocha broke through for a second and said, I'm dipping my toe in this kind of dark water right now.
No, I don't disagree.
I will just give.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to give my sort of view on this, which is I'm definitely going down Rodeo. And to give an anecdote, Jason and I were driving to the concert, right? Because it was like a 3-hour drive to Raleigh. It was Raleigh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you were driving to Raleigh. We were talking about it. And you're like, okay, they're going to play Killing in the Name. They're going to play Bulls. There's like all these tracks we know they're going to play. And I was like, God, I really hope they play Down Rodeo. If they play Down Rodeo, I can die happy. And so, they're playing their songs, and then they do the like that opening of Down Rodeo, and I literally take Jason and start shaking him violently because I'm so excited that they're playing this song. As I mentioned, these people ain't seen a brown skin man since their grandparents bought one is one of my favorite lyrics of all time. I think it's actually a song I cover in my English 102 class when we talk about poetics and lyricism. I literally play Down Rodeo for my students because I think poetically it's talking about something that's super important and in a really cool way. Love Wake Up. Obviously, I think it's amazing, but for me, it's Down Rodeo.
So I never gave my vote on it, though. You just assume I would say Wake Up.
Oh.
So
don't do this.
Damn, okay.
It's almost like I want to vote Wake Up just to have an extra vote against you two guys. But I do think head to head, if you put those two tracks for me to listen to first, I'm going to listen to Wake Up first, just because it's a personal preference. But I think between the two songs, Down Rodeo is the better song. Yeah.
All right. I will erase the J I put next to Wake Up and put it over by Down Rodeo.
So right now we reach an interesting point in the track listing because Evil Empire has one more song than the self-titled.
Mm-hmm.
What would you guys like to do?
Well, so we actually talked about this, and I want to save it till we get to the end. Like, I don't want to. I think we talked about this, Cody, but I have a solution, and Jason agreed with that solution, so I think it's what we'll go with. We'll keep doing the track by tracks, but when we get to the last track on the self-titled, there's one more track after that for Evil Empire.
Yeah.
I think we have a solution. So when we get there, I think we can solve it pretty quickly.
Perfect.
So then, do you want to introduce the next matchup?
Yes. So then that puts us Without a Face versus Fistful of Steel. I'm not a fan of either of these songs, honestly.
I was going to say, this is a boring matchup for me because either one, I'm just kind of like, okay. Like, I think they're both cool, but like, they're not, either of them's nowhere near my favorite songs on either album.
Here is my argument, though. I think Fistful of Steel carries the energy more of the entire record. It feels like a small divot, whereas Without a Face almost stopped it for me. It just dragged on.
Well, Without a Face sort of, unfortunately, what it does, it almost kills the last 4 tracks in some ways. It loses momentum because you have Down Rodeo and then it just drops off dramatically in that 3rd track.
Yeah.
You're right about that. But I agree too. I'm not a huge fan of either one of these songs. However, Fistful of Steel is, if you research it, people love that fucking song, dude. Fistful of Steel is like, it's like a whole subculture that's like one of their favorite fucking Rage songs. It's okay. It's good, but it's Know Your Enemy or Bullet in the Head or even Take the Power Back, which is the same kind of song. I feel like Fistful of Steel is the same fucking song we already heard, of those 4 tracks. Not to say it's not, but I mean, it feels like the same you're getting there. I think the only advantage I would probably give Fistful of Steel is it just sounds better than Without a Face. It doesn't pull me down,
I would give the edge to Fistful of Steel just because even after listening to it so many times, it still gives me that stank face that good metal does, where I'm just like, oh, yeah. Without a Face, though, is cool. And that solo, that like triplet thing Tom does, that I think that's really cool. But it's not enough to like give it the edge. And again, these are 2 tracks that honestly, I'm okay with either one of them, but I would give a slight edge to the Fistful of Steel.
Now, I will say this, Fistful of Steel, isn't that the same track where it has in the beginning where Tom does that, ooh, ooh, isn't it the one where he does that weird fucked up beginning with the guitar in it?
Kind of. He does like a fade-in sort of thing.
That's the only reason I think for some reason that fucking Fistful of Steel kills me sometimes, because I feel like I still think it's better than Without a Face, but there's times where he's trying stuff with the guitar, where he's doing like this slide thing he's doing on the bridge, and you're just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, he's trying to bend the chords, and you can tell this is him trying to do stuff with the guitar that he's perfected in Evil Empire, but he's testing on this song, and I just go, oh man, like there are times when it almost takes me out of the song. Like I go, oh, should I skip this track?
Yeah.
Except for a couple of lines, I should skip this track, and I'm just like, I think I've heard other live versions of it now, and he doesn't really do it as much that he's doing that he does in this recorded version, that I'm just like, oh god, just this, I don't know. And plus, let's just be honest, the guy, it's a song about a guy, I'm gonna get on the microphone, I'm gonna spit hot fire basically, and talk about shit. And it's like, you've been spitting hot fire and talking about shit the last 7 tracks, dude. Like, you don't have to tell me. It's like it's a commentary on what he's already done the first 7 songs. You know what I'm saying?
That is what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you're just telling me what you've already done. I've already heard you, so I don't really need you to hear me. Does that make sense? Plus,
Without a Face does more. Does more lyrically. No, go ahead. You're fine.
Well, no, I was going to say, and plus, no offense, we just talked about this. Wake Up. It follows Wake Up, which Wake Up is the most advanced musical song that they were perfecting sort of studio on the album. And it goes right into a song that it feels like they just threw together,
Yeah.
That's the other thing that for me,
I think the one thing that kind of hurts Fistful of Steel more than anything else is that the first Rage record has either really, really good lyrics or, why did you say this?
Yeah.
Where Without a Face, it feels like, okay, we're telling a story. You know, I'm trying to actually say something. Fistful of Steel feels uncertain, but that's only with Zach.
So Jason, did you give it the Fistful or Without a Face?
No, I'm giving it a Fistful. Without a Face.
Okay.
Listen, lyrically, he's going off, and he's got some cool lyrics. And he's talking about some shit, you know, about like what's it like. It's about like a woman. She's like, isn't she working for like her landowner, picking like fruits? Like, you know, it really like,
Yeah.
you know, it sounds picking grapes, right, or something. And she's raped by her landowner. You know, there's a lot of really great storytelling in this thing. It feels very personal Without a Face, but it just feels just incomplete. Like it just there's something about it. You go, I don't know. Whereas like Cody said, Fistful of Steel, yeah, it's like Without a Face sucks all the energy out from what you just got from Down Rodeo. Whereas Fistful of Steel just kind of carries it on into the next couple of tracks, which are on that self-titled album, which are fucking great. You know, it's like a bridge song. Whereas Without a Face, it goes from like a okay song into another okay song. You know, it's like, God, how low can I get? But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So anyway.
Well, let's just move right on then to the last two matchups. And you mentioned the self-titled definitely comes with the heat, and that is for fucking true, because it's Township Rebellion versus Wind Below. I mean, is anyone going to say Wind Below in this matchup?
No.
It's not playing for audio, but all three of us are shaking our heads.
No,
it's not going to happen.
Wind Below is not
for
terrible,
the audience at home,
but it's no Township.
Yeah.
For the audience at home, I am currently shaking with excitement, because I think that the pairing of Township Rebellion and Freedom,
yes,
are in the top 5 of greatest track by tracks.
Oh yeah, because they feel like they go together. You could just put them together as one track. It would be a 12-minute track and it'd be fucking amazing. I 100% agree. And if you go see them live, like Mike and I did, they play them simultaneously right on top of each other. And they use that sort of cowbell stuff they do to sort of link those two songs together. And they flow seamlessly together because the storytelling is so good on both those tracks. And Wind Below is just I'm going to arguably say this is going to sound terrible. It might be my least favorite song on that Evil Empire. Like I don't know. Roll Right's not bad. I like it Roll Right actually, but Wind Below is just like, okay. I don't know how I feel about
Township Rebellion.
Yeah.
So here's the problem with Rage Against the Machine, and it is such a double-edged sword. Sometimes you find, and I think they really nailed being Rage Against the Machine when they get to Battle of Los Angeles. But sometimes they're either saying too much and it's super wordy and you have to think about it, and you have to almost have like a spark note to get through the song. Or they're saying so little that it kind of starts to feel like a precursor to the pandering that a band like Slipknot would do. Or like Mudvayne, where it's like, are we reaching for accessibility to, say, the lowest common denominator, which might be somebody who just doesn't want to think about stuff. They just want to, listen to angry music or passionate music and lift heavy weights, or I don't know, go work their construction gig, which is cool. Township Rebellion doesn't feel like a song. It feels like they gave Zach 5 minutes to just rant about I'm assuming like Christianity and how it how it does like colonializes and stuff like that, and they crushed it when he screams, shackled our minds when we're left on the cross, when ignorance reigns, life is lost. That is palpable anger. You could pick it up with your hand. That is dark matter. Wind Below is good, but it's not anywhere near what this does.
Well, dude, no, there's
I'm not sure.
Sorry. There's that last bit where he's like, why stand on a silent platform? Was it fight the war, fuck the norm? I mean, he literally repeats that song, and it's like, it's everything he was trying to do. And like, it feels like a more lyrically diverse version of Killing in the Name of, right? It's the smart storytelling. It feels like, you know, this is going to sound cheesy, but it's like you're watching like 12 Years a Slave, one of those great like movies about like those sort of moments where like people are oppressed and they're sort of being fighting, and this is the song that comes on, and this guy's like I could hear this playing in like a documentary about like civil rights movements. You know what I'm saying? Like it has this sort of power about it without saying so much. And it leads right into another song like Freedom that just continues it even at a higher elevation, you know. And it's just, yeah, I think I think all three of us are going to probably talk about the last two tracks on the self-titled album are just masterpieces of work, you know.
And the only thing, I mean, I can't really add anything more. It's clearly Township Rebellion. It just does more with the time it's given. With that, Wind Below's cool. I like it once again, but Township just kind of destroys it. And we get, if I can take the floor for at least a minute here, if not two, we get to this last matchup, which Cody was saying, okay, what to do. I think the correct thing to do here is have Freedom fight Roll Right and Year of the Boomerang, because audience may go, well, that's unfair. You got two songs going up against one. The unfair thing here is that Roll Right and Year of the Boomerang have to fight Freedom. That's what's unfair. Freedom is by far the best song on the self-titled album, and here's why. It's the last song, right? And the second it comes in with the and it's just like, all right, we've got one song left, Rage. What are you going to do with it? And they just give you fucking everything they've got. Lyrically, my God, just like, you know, Three Brothers, come on, isn't that three in a row? And he's talking about the tic-tac stuff, and it just goes boom, 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 boom. Oh, it's so good. Anger is a Gift. I know Cody's going to go off about that, so I'll let him go off about that when we get to Cody. For me, though, what really brings it home is the last minute and a half, where they just like come out, and then Tom just do, and it's like building up, and he just goes, Freedom, yeah, and then Freedom, yeah, right. And it just like, it's so loud. You can hear them like literally breaking bones with their playing of like thrusting their heads and just slamming the drums and power thrusting with the guitar. And then to have that, like, it's cheesy when some bands do it where they're like breaking the amps and breaking the equipment, but like you feel like that, what they earned it. Like they just let it go, and all four of them just start destroying the studio. And it's perfect. It's literally perfect. You could have Wind Below, Roll Right, and Year of the Boomerang against Freedom. It's still Freedom. It's not even close. Freedom is just the perfect send-off. It's the perfect Rage song, even though there's a lot of perfect Rage songs. It's by far my favorite on the self-titled as well.
I'm going to let Jason go next.
Okay.
I have a lot to say about Freedom.
So, I mean, well, I'll make it quick then. I think Freedom is, I agree with what Mike says. And plus, I'll build on to what he finished with. That ending, too, where he does that, like, Freedom, and you could hear his voice breaking, you know, as he's just, like, it's like, you know, like, he's just spent his whole fucking self on this album. Like, but it's also, like, I talk a lot about how Rage, that first self-titled album, it almost feels like they didn't know what to do with some of their songs. Some of their songs feels like they're trying different things. They're playing like funk music, rock music, rap music. They're trying to do different things, you know, trying to figure their sound out. Whereas this last song, there's like 3 or 4 different things happening, right? You have that, like, it feels like rap and hip hop and funk. And then you get that little cowbell where it's like, you know, you hear it right there happening, and then it goes into that, and it goes into this real like fast, like almost like metal sound, and then it comes right back down again, and it just sort of goes, builds again, and it's just this, it takes you on an emotional roller coaster. Like it just goes, hits hard, take a breath, hit hard, take a breath. You know, it's like, it's almost like being in a fight. It's like you're gonna get knocked down, take a breath, get back up, fight some more, take a breath, get back up, fight some more. You know what I'm saying? Like it's such a great song. However, I'm gonna flip it on this here. I'm not voting against it by far, but I like Year of the Boomerang. And Year of the Boomerang does something in it, by the way. It has a callback to People of the Sun, right? So People of the Sun, there's that line where it's saying, what do they say in People of the Sun, where it's coming back around again. It's for the people of the sun. It's coming back around again. Well, Boomerang sort of it's sort of like that homage where it's coming back around again to us, you know. And he sort of has like what does he say that line? He says, I got no property, but yet I'm a piece of it. Right. And there's this whole like sort of thing where I do like what Year of the Boomerang's doing. It's sort of tying that album together, which I do like that it does. The problem is it's up against a song that is a far superior song. But Roll Right's okay. But Year of the Boomerang, I think the problem is it's up against this track. However, if we had moved Year of the Boomerang, there's like 3 or 4 tracks I think I would put Year of the Boomerang would easily take on self-titled album over. Mm-hmm. And that's what sucks, because I think Year of the Boomerang, if it had been the first song on Evil Empire, it would have beat Bomb Track out. Because it feels like Year of the Boomerang feels like it could be an opener just as much as a closer. And I think it's an unfair advantage because it happens to be a really good song, but to me it's the best song. Once you pass down Rodeo, Year of the Boomerang's the only good one that's really left.
I agree
with that too.
But Freedom is just, I agree with everything Mike said. It's just a far superior track. It's a closer of a show. It's a closer of an album. It's a closer of a movie. It's a closer of a book. It just feels like we're preaching you this whole song, this whole time we're preaching you all this stuff. So we get to this track. Here's the message. This is what we were trying to accomplish. This is it. Now you got to fight for this fucking thing called freedom, which we don't have. That's why we have to fucking fight for our own freedom, because they say we have it, but we don't. It's like this whole thing. It's just brilliant. It's a brilliant track. I agree with Mike. It's not my favorite on that album, but I would say it's, for what it's trying to say, it's probably 1 or 2 on that self-titled album as the best track on that album.
I get emotional thinking about this song.
Oh, here we go.
And it is.
He probably creamed his jeans.
So here's my thing about freedom. I am significantly younger than Jason. Mike and I are in a relatively similar age range.
Thanks, Cody.
My first, well, no, because this will. I know, but this will set the landscape of this next sentence. My first memory as a person is 9/11. And that's super fucking crazy, because then immediately after that, it was almost 15, 17 years of war, of objectively unjustifiable war. The beautiful thing about being an American is that we are not outwardly persecuted for our right to protest, for our right to speak about things that maybe we disagree with or are inherently evil. And I think that this is the most beautiful Rage Against the Machine song, because it is, in my opinion, the most honest.
Yep.
They touch everything. Zach says everything without having to write, the next large book. Brother, did you forget your name? Did you lose it on the wall playing tic-tac-toe? Yo, check the diagonal. 3 million gone. Come on. Because they're counting backwards to 0. Every time I hear that, I get angry. I get genuinely furious, because that's a reality. That's not, oh, we didn't see this, that happens here. It happened in fucking 1992. It happened in 2018, in as miserable of a thought process as it is. It's going to happen again. And instrumentally, this is one of my favorite riffs of all time. When it hits, it moves the entire room. It feels like continents are shifting. I feel like this is the song that caused Pangea to break. Because this is the first time on self-titled that there is no ego. Those dudes, like the ending of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, they all fucking grabbed hands and became Groot for 1 second, It is monstrous. The ending of Zach screaming freedom whether you are 12 and you're grounded, whether you're 22 and you got arrested because you got a DUI, whether you're 33 and you're in jail because you didn't pay child support, or maybe you didn't pay taxes, 45 and you're stuck to an iron lung because you have like lung cancer, or 72 because you can't move because you fought in fucking Vietnam and Agent Orange took your legs. Freedom? Yeah, right. That hits for everybody, and it is an eternal feeling. Sometimes the biggest statement isn't 10,000 words. It's not these beautiful rhyme schemes. Sometimes it is, I will not be moved. And anger is a gift. You're fucking right. And as much as I can tie back into this, that's one of the very few cool things about being American. Because we were allowed to use anger as a fucking gift. And I think that for 4 dudes from California who had to witness the LAPD have open discrimination against people, who had to witness what I believe to be the birthplace of the AIDS issue, and then people get discriminated, who then had to witness down the road Rodney King. It is core shaking. They wrote better songs. Zach got better, the band got better. But Rage Against the Machine never touches this level of a fox caught in a corner, and it is choosing to jump. And I think that is why Freedom steps above everything. It speaks to me as a person. It speaks to me as a man. It speaks to me as somebody who I find myself unjustified sometimes feeling patriotic. It speaks to me as a Native American. It speaks to me as somebody who is bisexual. It speaks to me on such an intimate level that there's almost maybe 3 or 4 other songs that make me like shake, because I know what that feeling is. You know, everybody in their life will have had that feeling. Maybe you got into an argument with your ex on a vacation and you're stuck in this fucking hotel room, you know, or maybe your fucking stepdad got super drunk and now you got to handle that, and you're 15 and you got to punch a grown man out. Freedom, yeah, right. That's my caping for this song.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Cody, I agree with you though, man. There's also that other line that I really like in it too, because it feels very similar to Bullet in the Head, where he says, something about a billboard. What does it say? Like a billboard.
Oh,
what does the billboard say? Come out and play. Forget about the movement. Right. This whole idea that it's like, oh, don't worry about this over here. Come see this over here. It's like, we all want to go to Disney World, but those poor people that work at fucking Disney World are working for pennies on the dollar. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's this idea that it's the same thing they sort of sell all the way through, but they do it so much more eloquently in this song than they do. Like, they mention all these sort of things in other tracks they're doing, but it's sort of like all that work is coming into this final piece, and they do it in such a way that it is so poignantly done. And I do think, Mike, I remember this. There's so I'll bring this up too, because my favorite Rage song people listening don't know is No Shelter. Like, I love No Shelter, and it isn't a movie. Unfortunately, it gets tied to a crappy movie, but it's a great fucking song that's just in a crappy movie. But I think when we watched them live, when they did the show, when we went to the concert, Zach is sitting on this, he had tore his Achilles, so he's sitting on this like tour crate that they put like equipment crate, right?
Like a box, basically.
Yeah, they solo him out, and he's doing this, and when he does that line where there's be no shelter here, the front lines everywhere, he's doing this thing like he's orating like he's a preacher. And they mirrored it again in Township, where they kept soloing down on this one light down on him, and he's sort of sitting on this crate, just like this reverend or this guy speaking from a pulpit, like this is, the 70s freedom, and he's standing on the, Washington, Washington Monument. I mean, not Washington, the Lincoln Memorial, looking over the water, just sort of fucking talking to all these people. And it feels like that way in Freedom, like this guy that is just out there waiting, like trying to get all his words out before the mic fucking cuts him off, before the man shuts him down, and he's just selling it all, and they're putting it out there. And it's, yeah, I agree with you, Cody. It's just a great song. It's just great. It's everything that Rage you want them to be, and everything they've claimed to be. They put it out there, and this is who they are. Like they're preaching what they're practicing what they're preaching, basically.
Yeah, it's like, you know, Freedom feels like you have made the decision and you're walking into a war zone. You don't have to be there, but you are choosing to be there. And I think that it's so unpretentious, you know, because sometimes they can have these moments where it's like, wow, you guys are really thinking high, you know. It's so transparent in such a human way, and I think that's what handles it for me. Yeah.
So, a lot is said about Freedom, but I think there's a lot to be said about Freedom for sure. The numbers are interesting. I don't know if you guys were keeping count. So
I feel like the self-titled got it.
Of 6 of 10 self-titled tracks, 6 of them ran away, meaning they got every one of our votes. So in the end, I chose 6 songs off self-titled. Cody chose 7. Jason chose 7. On Evil Empire, I chose 4. Cody chose 3. Jason chose 3. Track by track wise, self-titled takes it. But again, we speak towards. Go ahead.
I'll throw a caveat out here, though. I will say this. So we're here breaking down the songs and listening one by one. But if you listen to the albums all the way through, like you start with self-titled and go top to bottom, and you start Bulls top to bottom, I do think Bulls, the first half of that album, is much easier listening. Like the first 4 or 5 tracks flow pretty much all the way down to like Down Rodeo, right? If you go all the way through those tracks to Down Rodeo, it's a great fucking album. It just blows through. But those 3, before you hit Year of the Boomerang, it slogs it down. So the first half of Evil Empire really plays so well if you're just listening to it straight through, versus if you listen to self-titled straight through, you get to Settle for Nothing, and it just cuts its throat. You know, Take the Power wobbles a little bit, Bullet in the Head wobbles a little bit. But I feel like once you hit like Know Your Enemy to the end on self-titled, it's like it's the opposite direction. You know what I'm saying? Like it really kind of just continues a strong run. So I think the difference too between the albums is, I think Evil to me feels like a better, stronger start. Self-titled has a better finish. But track to track, it's a different game, because you're breaking the songs up individually, and it's a whole different concept, you know?
Yep.
Yo, I'm sorry for dominating that conversation about Freedom. I'm sorry for come on, get out of here.
Nothing to apologize for.
No,
it's Freedom. God damn it, it's Freedom. It's one of the greatest songs ever written.
Well, I think it's just it's important you look at these bands, right? That they find their way to elevate beyond just music, whether it be Pink Floyd or whether it be MC5 or Iggy and the Stooges or the Clash. These bands that are Black Flag, they become political, and then you listen to the music, and it's like, some of this is kind of trash, dude.
Yeah.
Rage, for all of their ups and downs, and for then turning to Audio Slave, and then being Prophecy Rage, and all of these things, Rage never lost its luster as so incendiary. The self-titled feels like a young band today. There are mistakes that young bands make, but they don't cripple them. They just hurdled them into Evil Empire. And in some ways, Evil Empire is better. I think the guitar tones are better. The mix is better. The drums, holy shit. It's like they spent 2 weeks just on drum tones. The bass. that's where Tim gets that iconic, like super gainy, zippy, I can't even describe it, nasty sounding bass tone. But it came after almost the pure adrenaline of writing, and then having to go out and having people criticize you and be like, oh, you guys are just a plant, whatever, you guys can't have a number one song on the really, you can't be political and succeed. Yes, you can. You just have to beat people at their own game.
Well, they also touched on
and
that
that's
same
important
sort
to
of
recognize.
they touched on that same feeling that was going on too, right? You know, Nirvana was the year before them, sort of touching on that sort of angry young kid vibe. Pearl Jam, same way, with the sort of grunge feel, and they sort of came in there with this sort of like grungy rock, alternative, you know, fucking rock, metal, rap. It was sort of like it's the culmination of everything that was going on at that time period that the angsty side of the world was feeling, right? You know, hip hop was sort of coming out there. You know, you had people that were, you know, being shut down because they had the parental advisory stickers, and you had people being fucked over because they were couldn't be say certain words on tours, you know. And then you had people like Nirvana that was coming out there and like get the young kids pumped because they were like, parents don't understand us and shit, you know. And Rage just said, well, we're going to take that and that, put it together, and we're going to that's the sound we want anyway, and we're going to fucking do the album we want it to do. And I think that's why it's successful, because it really is merging these sounds of everything that was going on, and it hit at the right moment. It's almost the perfect antithesis of the 90s band, right? It's the, if you want to say pinnacles of bands in the 90s that were the best, I think you would argue they were the best. You know, there's only like 4 or 5 bands I think in the 90s that could even compete with that same level. You could put Nirvana, but I'm going to be honest with you and tell you this. I love Nirvana. I'm a huge Nirvana fan. This is a different argument, but I think the Rage's 3 albums versus Nirvana's 3 albums fucking curb stomps the shit out of them. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, In Utero's their 3rd album, Battle for Los Angeles beats the shit out of some In Utero songs, no problem. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, there's just like, there's not a competition. You know, you get Nevermind against Evil Empire, fucking would be just tough. But it's just the antithesis of what's going on. They just did it in a better way. And they're still doing it. That's, I think, sort of the poignant part of it. You know, they're demons. They didn't let the demons get the better of them. They were able to use those demons and put them out there to sort of inspire people to be conscious and fucking think for themselves and fight. And I love it. And there's more people like Mike, when we saw the show, there's people at that show that, you know, you think some of them, you're like, man, do they really understand what Rage is selling? Or are there just more people that are conscientious and feel like we do, that they can't be themselves because they're living in a world that's maybe more conservative, but they want to be more. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of dudes that look like rednecks there. There's a lot of dudes that look like country boys there. But in some ways, they are anti-government, anti-shit as well, too. They're like, fuck this, man. We're getting fucking railroaded. You know what I'm saying? And like, so they preach the same thing. But it's like, there was a great article. I don't take up time. We don't have a lot of time. But there's a great article that I was reading one time about Rage and Tom Morello. That somebody posted a tweet about him and said, oh, Rage, quit being so political. Why do you always talk about shit? This is like years later when he's like on like his radio show that he does. And he said, have you listened to any of our fucking music for the last 20 years? What do you think we were talking about, dude? Like, rolling down Rodeo in with a shotgun and see a brown man since the grandparents bought one. Like, what the fuck do you think we're writing about here? Like, what the fuck do you think this album is? Like, so it's just like, yeah, if you have not listened to this album, you just want to like kill in the name of, you're hearing it. You're like, okay, there's literally a fucking line in there in Killing the Name of that says, chosen whites, right? The chosen whites. Like, are you just like, anyway. Cody, your cat agrees with me 100%.
She got
I hear her back there.
Princess.
She's like, yeah. She's like, fuck you, give me some milk.
My cat is a huge Rage Against the Machine fan.
I can tell.
So a little sidebar, and then we will end this conversation. When I was learning how to play bass, she would sit in front of my bass amp and just fall asleep to the vibrations. because I think the low end was comforting to. I think she has arthritis, so I think it spent years, dude. Years. I'd play like Blink-182 song. I'd play like a Nirvana song. Then for fun, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna play Freedom, and she would just get curled up. And so I think she has a little bit of knowledge about kind of that passion.
Good.
Good. She understands.
She
As all
it.
living things do, that rage is truly one of the greatest things to ever bless our ears.
Yeah, she's like, let me out of this fucking house. Freedom. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we have been going for an hour and 40 minutes at this point. So last episode I said one of our listeners complained it was too long. Well, sorry, buddy. This one's the longest one so far. And we haven't even, we don't need to really touch on this, but normally we would talk about packaging and all the other stuff. We don't have to. We're definitely going on longer than we usually do here. I think we've gotten to the core of, these two albums, what's being said. Rage, truly one of the greats. I would actually agree with Jason's statement that they're the best of the 90s. I can't really think of any other band that really comes close, in my opinion. Love them. I hope they do more tours. I really don't think they will if I had to guess, but I would love to see another Rage show. I know Jason would. I'm sure Cody would too. So maybe if they do another one, all three of us could be there and rock out. And when Freedom comes on, we'll all hug and cry and break shit.
Well, and for one last statement, and the two of you were going to find this funny. For the listener at home, if for some reason you ever find yourself in a place of denigration or accidental oppression, remember that situations are movable. Don't ever stand still if you're fucking sinking. Move, dude. But not in like a cowardly way. Move forward with your head held high. Passionate songs, angry songs, political songs are necessary regardless of your political stance or how you feel about anything that could be, say, controversial or a hot take. As long as you can have those conversations with respect and dignity and poise and tact, the world will move with you. Just make sure you're moving in the right direction. Don't be a fucking idiot. Don't vote for Ron DeSantis. Jesus Christ. Fucking hell. I can't believe we're here.
Listen, no offense. Jesus Christ would not vote for Ron DeSantis.
Fuck Ron.
Jesus Christ would listen to Rage, probably. In all honesty, he would be like, "I get what these guys are saying. It's a little.
He would get it.
It's a little aggressive for me, but I get it, bros. No problem. I'm on your side."
Well, ending on a political statement, I think, is the best way to end a Rage Against the Machine discussion.
Hold on. What covers the best, though, Mike? We gotta say what covers the best. Everybody,
self-titled.
Cody.
No, it's self-titled. That monk immolated himself.
Immolation. Yeah, I'm about to say best one.
That's wild.
I like Evil Empire, but I like the boldness of the colors. But yeah. Can I say?
I think the great.
Oh, sorry, go. No.
I think the great trick of Evil Empire is that they swung so far into commercialism.
Yes,
it's like you look at the cover and it's super safe, and you listen to it and it's super clean, and that's really kind of funny because it's like, all right, you guys.
I feel like they were trying to do that, though. I think that was the point. Mm-hmm. I think they created this kind of cover that looked like it'd be like, oh, let's create a funny cover. It looks like a superhero cover, so parents won't know their kids are buying this fucking album. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the other album looks aggressive, looks scary, looks creepy, whereas this looks like friendly and oh yeah, what do we got here? I think this is trick of marketing where it's like, oh man, let's fucking get these parents. They look at this album and think, oh, well, it looks like a superhero. Evil Empire is a superhero fighting against the. You know what I'm saying? Like there's this trick.
Yeah.
I want young kids to buy my album. And I'm gonna fucking wrap it up like a piece of candy and get them interested because they see that cover and they go, "Ooh, what's that?" I think that's what was done. I feel like I look at that and I go, "That was a ploy to get young people to buy this album." It was poppy, fun, and artistic.
Well, I mean, all great power. Yeah, all great power is radicalized without knowing.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of that album cover is it's so simple that, like, I don't know, you could be like Bulls on Parade. It sounds like a song about bulls, running around having fun. Oh, there you go. Ride up my family with a pocket full of shells. Okay, that's nice.
It's brilliant. It's all brilliant. Well, Jason, thank you for joining us on this episode.
Thank you, guys.
In your last throngs of freedom, we're glad you joined us for it.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. I'll keep listening. If anything, I will say this on a side for everybody that does listen to these things. If it's done anything for me, when I listen to these albums, it makes me want to listen to the tracks you guys are talking about. So if anything that you're doing that's good, it's making people exposed to more great rock metal albums that maybe they haven't listened to in years, or they haven't listened to at all, which is a good thing.
That's the hope.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Cody, for our part, I'll see you on the next one. But Jason, thanks for being here. We'll catch y'all later.
Be well, everybody.
Good luck.
Freedom. Yeah, right.